Hi, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the place where you can find the most reliable Web3 contents on the internet with your favorite new friend, Kango Lin. This week, we're talking to the head of growth at Third Web. We're talking to Pat. It's very interesting because we're going to talk a lot about NFTs. And since we're in the infrastructure business, there's just so much potential to talk about, so many use cases. And I'm very curious. What Third Web is most excited about today, about how people can use their infrastructure. So let's find out. I think this is going to be very relevant for the entrepreneurs. Yo, Patrick, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to Above The Jpeg.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, man.
Yeah, man. So Patrick, are you in New York right now?
Yeah. I just it's funny, we should have linked up while I was out in SF, but I just flew back this morning, back in Brooklyn, gearing up for NFT NYC this week.
San Francisco?
Yeah, I was out visiting. So our headquarters are based in Fort Mason up in the marina. So I spent a couple of days last week out there just with some of the team that we're visiting, and then we all flew back to New York and are getting ready for a crazy week for NFT NYC. So
yeah, NFT NYC, heard it's gonna be big. We're actually a Polygon partner. I heard that Polygon Studio is organizing them, as sponsoring them, I believe. It's gonna be quite big of an event. All of my friends are going, though I'm not going. But anyway, so Patrick, very interesting, man. Third Web, right? Today we're gonna talk a lot about the Third Web. First of all, Third Web is an interesting name. I like the name of Third Web. Talking about NFT infrastructure, I think Third Web is probably one of the most notable one that I can think of. Right, there's a couple ones out there, but Third Web is definitely the one that I personally think is the coolest, just by being in the NFT infrastructure space. Starting off, really would love to know, like, Patrick, your background, your journey into crypto, NFTs in particular. How did you find Third Web, man? Just the whole journey, man.
So it's funny. I think I'll start. The irony, Kangle, is that Third Web actually found me. And however you want to slice and dice that, right? It's like I serendipitously was always destined to come across it. And whether it's like an algorithmic kind of serendipity or whatever, I'll get to kind of the nitty gritty. But so my background actually starts in traditional finance. I went to school for finance and accounting at Fordham up in the Bronx, and then graduated and worked at Merrill and UBS for a bit, interning there, and then spent some time in consulting. And ultimately it got to the point where I wasn't super happy with the industry that I'd chosen, and the work-life balance and things of that nature. And so I pivoted, and I jumped ship to a company called, a startup at that point called Epidemic Sound, as a Swedish music startup, really trying to democratize, royalty collection for independent artists. And my background, I've been playing piano since I was 10. Taught myself how to DJ while I was at school, and have been doing that kind of as a side hobby, and working on production and stuff like that. And so naturally, music has always been really near and dear to my heart. Had an opportunity as the first US hire to really build out their kind of US operations, and we went from a team of 3 working out of the second floor of Freeman's Alley in the Lower East Side to I think 55 or 60 in the US within a year and a half. Our valuation ballooned to north of $1 billion after a Series A, and it was a wild time. And that really gave me that first kind of taste of the entrepreneurial spirit, what it is to be in startup culture, in addition to having kind of a mission that is so aligned with the greater team, if you will. Not to mention, I spent probably 7 or 8 months collectively out in Sweden. Freaking incredible, man. If you ever get a chance to go, Stockholm, Malmo, Stockholm itself, you could spend weeks just exploring. Personal favorite, Sodermalm. If you get a chance, check it out. And so I spent almost 3 years there, really, building up the team, and then joined a creative agency here in Brooklyn called Kearney, and was really focused on marketing strategy and measurement. We mainly worked in the experiential space. So a lot of your IRL activations, working with clients to figure out how best to to kind of prove to their higher ups, that it was a success, and worked, across clients like BuzzFeed, Hyundai, Lululemon. We won an award for a Webby Award for a project we did with was it JP Morgan Chase and the New York Knicks. We basically took over Little Romeo, or Speedy Romeo's rather, in the Lower East Side, and turned it
I
into
see
like
you do something with Delta as well.
yeah. We did a pop-up in Flatiron, which was super cool. It was basically this like really intimate kind of workspace. We worked on such a wide variety of stuff in Kearney. So I ended up leaving and got recruited to join Super Plastic, which you may be familiar with. They're very active in kind of the Web3 and NFT space now.
Super Plastic.
Plastic, all one word. Basically a brand founded by Paul Budnitz, who's also known for his exploits at Kid Robot. And they're based out of Burlington, Vermont, of all places. Wild, wacky, zany brand. They're doing some incredible stuff. And, I had an opportunity to kind of build out their growth team and kind of, again, kind of a greater focus on measurement and data. Awesome experience. I ended up moving. So I spent most of that time up in Vermont, living at a condo in a ski area, commuting into the office during the pandemic.
And with what's called, with those trees that with red leaves.
Yeah. I mean, Christ, they're
what are those trees called? I'm a foreigner. Sometimes I don't have the right vocabulary.
I mean, dude, trees that change colors in the fall. It's just, yeah. So it's a variety, right? It'll be a variety of oak, maple, hawthorn. Like Northeast has such a wide variety of like ecosystem.
Right.
But
now we're at Super Plastic. Just quickly getting off the track a little bit. Give us a little insight into the partnership with Fortnite and Gucci, man.
So great questions. I think so. To give you some background on Super Plastic, right? It's essentially like the new age IP creation. Is you're creating IP that really kind of lives and breathes on social, has a direct line of communication with its audience and fandom, and then you're monetizing that in a variety of ways. So they started out with physical collectibles. And then we started exploring NFTs, right? As NFTs started to crop up, towards the end of 2020, 2021. And we're in the pandemic, so everybody's focused online. And, the TLDR is like, we really saw brand partnerships as a huge opportunity to continue to kind of claim share of voice while not, spending an outrageous amount of money, with our marketing. And, I think it was only natural that the Fortnite partnership, I mean, like the kind of Fortnite's trying to really broaden and garner new, user bases, given they've kind of matured in a sense. And so with that, it was a natural progression there in taking this kind of like zany wild IP and, extensifying it into their universe. That campaign in and of itself was so much fun. Tapping influencers to kind of work on the day of launch and, working within our Discord to kind of engage the community, running these different challenges, building out custom maps. That was honestly some of the most fun I've had on any campaign. And then, Gucci was a conversation that started probably at the beginning of 2021. It was their 100-year anniversary last year. And so it was really just trying to find ways to activate, to kind of, bring that share of voice. And Galen, I think he's director of creative or like chief creative officer now. Brilliant guy. He's worked on campaigns and companies, ranging from Adidas to, Jordan and, Hasbro, everything in between. And really has stayed close with the creative director over at Gucci. And knowing they were going to do something together, it started out with, I think, a smaller kind of partnership towards the end of last year, which is really like one of the last things I worked on. In kind of laddering into these kind of greater campaigns that you're starting to see roll out now, which is, an NFT tied to physical merchandise, and things of that nature. And I would imagine Super Plastic will continue to just like, experiment and test, both obviously on the brand partnership side, but within the greater Web3 space. It makes so much sense. And I think also like they got their start in collectibles, right? And the whole purpose of collectibles is really like the ownership and the rarity of what it is that you own, in addition to obviously, kind of the sentimental value that you attribute to it. Anyways, so that was kind of.
So with the, are you saying that with the Gucci, it's more of like they're a luxury brand, and the rarity just make a lot of sense for them.
Yeah. Certainly with Gucci, I mean, I think that that was always going to be, a massive
Yeah, that's
success.
right.
I mean, it's the name in and of itself commands so much,
I got
so
so
much
much more
respect.
to ask later. I got so much. We'll get there. We'll get there. I got so much more.
Yeah.
But now we're after the super plastic, heading
So I
towards.
was, yeah. So I was basically, it was towards the end of last year. I was looking at a couple, other opportunities. Like I had 2 or 3 job offers in hand, and one of my closest partners and colleagues here at Third Web had reached out to me via DM and just was, looking to see if I was open to chatting about a role. I looked a little bit deeper, and I think I spent maybe 30 seconds on the website and looked at, founding team and stuff like that. And I was just like, yes, this looks like the most incredible opportunity. Whether it's, Stephen Bartlett and Furkan Ryden, the 2 co-founders who've been incredibly successful in their past businesses, in addition to the founding team, right? Which is, Caddy, Krishang, Jake, this incredible kind of array of talented individuals who have come from, I feel like it's wild how oftentimes, the co-founders and exiters who've made the most money at their previous ventures get all of the, that share of voice, all of the kind of recognition. But we've also assembled this incredible team of individuals who have successfully, exited prior ventures that were incredibly successful due to their contributions. It's kind of like, it's almost that next layer beneath of like finding really, really successful founding team members,
Yeah.
and then like, creating your Avenger squad, if you will. And so essentially, like, I got reached out to building out the growth team here in the US, in New York. And, it's like, yes, like, let's do it. Like, we're essentially, providing developer tools to both Web2 and Web3 endemic developers to simplify and streamline their go-to-market and kind of concepting and development and execution. And to me, I mean, that plus being entirely open sourced and free is absolutely the creme de la creme, the piece de resistance. It's an incredible kind of approach to this space that currently, as the market conditions show, is going through it. But, ultimately we see the light at the end of the tunnel and everything that is on the other side of that, all of that opportunity and the unique kind of service proposition that blockchain and Web3 technology, presents.
Yeah, man, that sounds all really kind of just fits in together. You as a head of growth have been working on the marketing, has been working on the growth, with the previous ventures, and then with the founding team at Third Web. I haven't got a chance to talk to any one of them, but I'm very sure they're really, really brilliant people, because I think Third Web has only been around for not long ago, huh? Probably 2 years. I might be wrong on this.
So publicly, we've been launched in public since December 16th of 2021. So just over 6 months.
Just over 6 months. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Over 6 months, because no one ever heard about Third Web before, and then all of a sudden, Third Web has become one of the one of the hottest. Along with Stardust, and
I think Stardust. There's a couple of these platforms that are essentially looking at it in a similar kind of vein of trying to streamline the creation or development process. I think the primary difference is that we really see ourselves as a developer tool first and foremost, while then packaging and providing kind of simpler components.
Developer tools.
Yeah, developer
That's
tools
right.
first, but like when you build this stuff, it's relatively simple. I say simple, not for me, not for a non-technical, minded non-developer like myself, but for my dev team. They can take something that they built into the SDK for a developer and essentially extract that and put it into like, a front end component that I can then use from the dashboard. So, extensively as we continue to develop and build developer features, new product releases and updates, those will also, filter down into no code, low code usage as well. What happens is people often make the mistake of thinking that we are a no code or low code platform because of the dashboard and these kind of UI features that make it seem as such. The wild part is that, you know, our SDKs, which are built in languages ranging from TypeScript to Golang to, you know,
it's a technical effort, you know, it can do a lot of things. It can do
like
that was the biggest problem.
For instance, Kangol, like people come to us and they'll be like, can you create like a membership NFT pass with ThirdWeb? It's like, yes, you can. You know what you can also build is your own app where you do that for your users using our SDKs, right? So it goes that next step of enabling you to build your own programmatic experience with blockchain and Web3 functionality inside of it, as opposed to just building an NFT drop or, you know, a contract that
it's
has a
more than
revenue
that.
split.
Yeah, 100%. Because what I find is that a lot of people, especially talking to non-technical people, it's difficult. It's difficult to talk to non-technical business owners. They're always thinking it's hard for them to think in terms of the front end, back end. You know, there is a face of it, and then there is also a little machine that's running in the back end, right? Really, what SDK is well, I can't explain it. I can't explain any better than what's already existing out there. You know, which is really just pull a whole bunch of resources over as a toolkit. You'll be able to connect to the library and all that very instantly during your development process. But it's really hard to understand. All we just talked about is really hard to understand for most of the people. I'm wondering.
Yeah, dude, even like the way you said it is probably a better understanding than I personally have. But like the way I've come to understand it as a non-technically minded, you know, growth marketer is essentially an API is a call, right? It doesn't live within your code. You're sending something out externally and it's sending something back. Whereas an SDK is integrated. Embedded is a horrible term to use. Integrated directly into your code base. It is programmatic and functional in nature. And so therefore it's that added layer of technological functionality. Anyways, we're diving
we're getting a little technical. Yeah, we're getting a little technical. But so, you know, this is getting interesting, right? As a head of growth, what does the day-to-day look like, right? I imagine you explain this a lot to a lot of folks. As head of growth, what does the day-to-day look like at ThirdWeb? Very interesting.
It's a great question.
Like, what do you do? You know, just figure it out.
Yeah. So to be fair, I will put a little bit of a filter on this because I don't want everyone to know what my secret sauce is, but it's a lot of partnership conversations. Like I think one of our biggest value adds is having this ability to partner with extensively almost anybody in the space. Because we really are this infrastructure layer that is empowering, like enabling us to have conversations with everybody from FWB to Zora to, a bunch of like Fortune 100 brands that I can't name right now because they're under NDA. But having that composability and kind of optionality to plug ThirdWeb in end to end, or if you have a custom contract need and you want to use ThirdWeb Deploy, or if you simply need to layer in a royalty split into your contract, there's so many different manners. I think one of the most important things to do, to your point, is to start with the business logic, right? It's like, what are you trying to achieve, and who are you speaking to? Who's your audience? And I think those are the two, like almost always the first two questions that I ask. And the third one typically is like, do you have a very like distinct or passionate feeling about what chain that you should be on? And oftentimes all like the business and use case, they're pretty solid on, and you can kind of, push them in a direction that makes sense based on kind of, their greater infrastructure that is at play. The other piece being is like, we may end up, taking on more of an advisory and an expertise role before we get to the point of building something, right? They may have questions about what chain and why, and
education pieces.
Exactly, really, man. It's super important, and there's no you can certainly like get a lot of people from 0 to 1, right? And give them the tools and resources they need to understand what they can do. But at a certain point, it really has to be like a one-to-one conversation almost. And, you and I you getting to a point of where you're understanding, the analogies or kind of the metaphors that I might be using and vice versa. And that's another reason why I love this space so much, is there's so much, camaraderie and back and forth. So point one, a lot of partnership conversations. Point two, generally like a lot of writing, a lot of like working on content briefs and stuff like that. I think one of the areas that we really excel at is our content marketing. Whether it's video or written, we're pumping that out on the reg and scaling up those teams, and very excited to see what the next kind of 6 months hold.
Yeah, yeah. Back to your point, education is such a huge problem. I think education, and that's why we created Above the JPEG. Really, Above the JPEG started with "fuck the JPEG." That was the first version of Above the JPEG. Really,
I love that.
Yeah, man. Really, I see this mainstream media depict NFT as this JPEG solution, right? It's and then there was a lot of I did this infrastructure. I did some NFT consultation for some folks, include a Meta company and a U.S. senator. But what I was doing this, of course there's a lot of other folks as well, and they always think that NFT is about JPEG. And how can you launch some JPEG for me and I can make some magic money? And that was the biggest pain that I had at the time. I have to do this one by one, right? And the reason why I created Above JPEG and talking to folks like you is that we wanted to be able to do this at a larger scale, even though not everybody will be able to figure out what's going on, but some of the folks might be able to leverage off Above the JPEG and the content that we're providing, to be able to think about, hey, how can we implement an NFTs in a way that makes sense for our business, right? And at the end of the day, even though we're doing consultation for folks, would you agree that it's still their call on what make most sense for them to implement? The most we can do is just tell them, hey, like this can do a number of things, but you understand your audience the best, and we don't. I think that's a huge challenge that we're facing today, which is really the education piece of it.
Yeah, and yes, like 1000%. I identify so strongly with "fuck the JPEG," and that title just resonates so much to me. I've been tired of this kind of this form, if you will, of NFTs for 6 to 8 months. That said, there've definitely been some outliers that have come along and been like, oh, that's a really creative kind of rendition.
Yeah, like Bored Ape Yacht Club. I think they're pretty nice.
I'm so tired of hearing DAYC, dude. Like, kudos to them for what they've done and continue to create and build. But I also think to a certain point, that's part of the problem, is that they are such a part of the conversation all the time that people forget that it's not just about the JPEG. It's not just about the image. It's not just about the IP or the narrative. Like, I think a lot of people now think that NFTs really are like exactly that form of that Bored Ape Yacht Club has taken. But in reality, it's a piece of technology that enables X, Y, or Z, right? Yeah. And so it's really important for people to get to a point first of understanding what a non-fungible token actually means. That it can encapsulate media beyond just an image, and that you can do incredibly, gamified kind of activations with NFTs that may be wrapped within tokens or vice versa. I think a great example, dude, token gating is the perfect example. You have an NFT, a token. It could have been a ticket to an event. It could have been, a membership pass to a club. And that's holding that, like whether you participated at an event or you joined a club or bought in, in the case of FWB, needing to hold tokens in order to apply, that then unlocks a next level of experience of community. And what it does for the individuals that are running those, communities, it allows them to identify those that are super fans, are most invested in the projects, that, ultimately, as we talk about like the idea of a DAO, I don't necessarily believe in the idea that everything within an organization needs to be decentralized or autonomous, but I do believe in the principles. I think you can create like so much, fodder within your community who love and believe in what it is you're doing, and then can, almost take that next step of being a part of, the leadership and recommending ideas, or within that kind of, token gated community that maybe went to this one-off event or whatever it might be. You're able to get feedback on that event, or you're able to activate them the next time you do something in that specific region. I could talk about this with you, Kangle, for no less than the next hour. Unfortunately, as we talked about, right, it's NFT NYC, so we all got stuff to do. But that's kind of, what I'm getting at. And I think the other piece is like, it is on us to make sure that we have eyeballs everywhere, all over the market, to see, for instance, like Proof XYZ. And like Pool Suite. Those are two great examples of membership clubs that we, talk about. Obviously, we love those guys, but like at the same time, they're really good examples of how you can take NFTs to the next, step, if you will. Anyways, I'll get off my pedestal now.
Yeah, and for the folks who are listening, when it comes to DAO, I highly recommend Jess. Have you talked to Jess yet? Jess from C Club. My God, he's such an OG in the DAO space. So I think that's probably the most famous DAO accelerator for now, which is Jess's C Club. So much knowledge.
Kangle, I actually, one of the first things when I jumped down the rabbit hole at the end of 2020 that I watched was, it was like a video, it was like a back and forth between Jess Sloss and Cooper Turley about like Seed Club and a bunch of the stuff they were doing. And it was like an hour and a half or 2 hours long, and I watched the whole thing. It's just like,
he's amazing, right?
Dude, individuals like this are the reason why I got into the space and believe in it. And why, I feel such a kind of need to continue pushing, if you will.
Yeah, I literally just went on Twitter. I said, yo, I'm trying to do a token raise. Anybody knows who did a token raise? And then someone tagged Jess, and Jess just reached out. He's such a cool guy. But anyway, I just stopped throwing a little perk down there, right? We talked about, what the day-to-day look like as a growth lead at Third Web, and some challenges. I'm wondering, what are some industries and use cases that Third Web has came about, getting really excited about, getting excited to power? What are some, this is getting into the nitty-gritty, some great examples that other people might be able to mimic?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I do probably have to jump shortly after this, but I think ticketing is number one, which I mentioned already. So we have a partner by the name of Posh.vip, and, talking with a number of other kind of platforms in the space, of enabling them to create, these unique ticketing experiences that are also NFTs. And again, this goes back to, they're able to do this because we offer SDKs and languages that they know. And they can basically take that, they have a 10-person dev team, they can integrate it directly into their existing app. I think beyond that, esports and gaming, really any kind of industry that has a really, really passionate fan base, you can issue NFTs, again, as like a membership, as Fnatic, we did with Fnatic based out of the UK. And so that was called the Keys to Fnatic. And essentially it's unlocking, a variety of different layers of kind of bespoke experiences for that fan base. And depending on what level of keys you have, and kind of how you participate to unlock the next kind of levels, will then see, what you're able to redeem on that end. And then 100 Thieves, same thing. They were essentially commemorating their League of Legends championship back in
a lot of gaming, huh?
2020. Yeah, I mean, these were the first conversations that we had, right? These launched like earlier this year. I wish I could talk to you about the stuff that's launching in the next like 2-3 weeks.
Oh, dude.
We'll have
anyway,
that.
You'll be there. We gotta get another episode, one of these episodes somewhere down the road. I know you gotta go. Sure. One last quick fire question. Yeah. What is the one thing you learned from working with NFTs, and advice that you can give to the fellows?
That's a great question. One word of advice: do your own research. And I'll take that one step further. Do your own research to the point where you're looking at content, at opinions that are almost edge in nature. Make sure you're getting a full perspective. Do not, I think that's one of the things that as we helicopter out of Web3, just in general, I think the vast majority of the population is losing their ability to critically think. Do your own research, figure out the technology kind of aspects that are preventing you from understanding something, identify that, learn it. Then start looking at the space itself. Who's active? Who's doing what? What is it that kind of you tied into, and then dig into like those passion points first, because it'll be easier. It's intrinsically easy for you to learn something that you endemically find value in. And I think that's just like a good first step. Is like, you can go so deep, but if you don't know, it's like when you jump into a database or like an analytics platform, if you don't know the question around data analytics you want to ask, you're gonna get lost and you'll end up spending hours, in the platform. Same thing with NFTs and Web3. Figure out what question or what it is you want to identify or analyze, dig deep into that, step back, go towards it, so I would attack DeFi as its own. I would attack, NFTs by photographers versus NFTs as artists versus like your 10,000K PFP collections. There's so many. Then you have social tokens. You could spend weeks on this stuff, dude. Anyways, hopefully that was helpful. The TLDR,
that's great advice.
Like, do your own deep research.
Do your own deep research. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you for being on the show. We learned a lot from you. Gotta get you back next time.
Dude, I'm around whenever you need me. I'm ready. But it was a sincere pleasure, man. I'm excited to see the guests that you have lined up for the future.
Sounds good. I wish you a wonderful day, brother.
Cheers. You too, man. Bye-bye.